Commander Vexthar stood on the bridge of his massive ship. His 6 eyes blinked as he looked at the small blue planet on the main screen. Earth looked peaceful from this distance. The humans had no idea what was coming. His gray skin wrinkled as he smiled, showing sharp teeth. "This will be the easiest conquest of my career," he said to the officers around him. All of them were tall like him, with 4 arms and thick armor covering their bodies. Admiral Zulrek nodded. "Our scouts report that humans have weak weapons. They fight among themselves constantly. They will not stand united against us." "How many ships do we have ready?" Vexthar asked. 500 warships, Commander, plus 2,000 troop carriers. We can land 10 million soldiers in the first wave." Vexthar nodded with satisfaction. "The Krazin Empire will add another planet to our collection. Begin moving the fleet into position. We attack in 3 days." Far below on Earth, things were peaceful in most places. People went to work, children played in parks, and life continued as it always had. But in a secret military base deep under the Rocky Mountains, alarms were going off. Captain Frank Willis rushed into the control room, his coffee splashing onto his uniform. He didn't notice. His eyes were fixed on the radar screens showing strange objects near Neptune. "What am I looking at?" he asked the technician. The young woman pointed at the screen. "Sir, these objects appeared 2 hours ago. They're moving in formation. Nothing natural moves like that." Frank leaned closer. His heart beat faster. "How big are they?" "The smallest is about the size of a Navy destroyer. The largest..." She paused, double-checking her readings. "The largest is nearly 2 miles long." Frank straightened up. "Call General Daniels now." Within hours, the highest levels of government knew something was coming. At the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Olivia Grant sat at the head of a long table. Military officers filled the seats. Screens on the walls showed presidents and prime ministers from around the world. "Ladies and gentlemen," Olivia said, "we have visitors coming, and they don't look friendly." General Alan Daniels stood up. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. He pointed to the images on the main screen. "These objects are moving toward Earth at high speed. They will arrive in approximately 72 hours. We've tried radio contact on all frequencies, no response." The room was quiet. Everyone understood what this might mean. "What are our options?" asked the president from his screen. "We're mobilizing all military forces," General Daniels said. "But if these are hostile aliens with advanced technology, our current weapons may not be enough." Frank Willis stepped forward. "Sir, we need to prepare people. If this is an invasion, we need everyone ready, not just the military." The president nodded slowly. "You're right. But we need to avoid panic. We'll announce that we've detected unusual solar activity. We'll tell people to prepare for possible power outages and communication disruptions. That should get them to stock up on supplies without causing mass panic. And meanwhile," Olivia added, "we prepare for the worst." The next day, people around the world noticed increased military activity. Jet fighters flew patrol patterns. Ships moved out to sea. Soldiers appeared in cities. On television and radio, governments warned about possible disruptions due to solar activity. Some people believed it, others didn't. In Chicago, police officer Samantha Kelly watched the military trucks roll past her patrol car. "Something big is happening," her partner said. Samantha nodded. "My brother works for NASA. He's not answering my calls. Whatever this is, it's not solar flares." She looked up at the sky. It was clear and blue. Hard to believe that somewhere up there something was coming toward them. At NORAD headquarters inside Cheyenne Mountain, scientists and military personnel worked around the clock. They tracked the alien fleet as it passed Mars. Colonel Richard Price hadn't slept in 30 hours. He stood looking at the main tracking board with Lieutenant Diane Murphy beside him. "They're speeding up," Diane said. "New estimated arrival, tomorrow morning, 0600 hours. Richard rubbed his tired eyes. "Any luck with communications?" "None. Sir, we've tried everything from radio to laser signals. They're ignoring us. Or they don't communicate the same way we do," Richard said. Across America and around the world, Military units moved into position. Fighter jets were fueled and armed. Missile batteries were prepared. Soldiers took up defensive positions around major cities. Ships at sea pointed their weapons toward the sky. But deep down, most military leaders knew a terrible truth. If these aliens could travel between stars, their technology was far beyond Earth's. This would not be a fair fight. In a small town in Nebraska, people gathered in the town square. They had heard rumors. Some had seen the military convoys passing through. A few had relatives in the armed forces who had called with warnings to stock up on food and water. Among them was Kyle Martinez, a software developer who had moved from California a year earlier. He listened as the mayor tried to calm everyone down. The government says it's just a precaution. Some unusual solar activity might affect power grids. Nothing to worry about. An old farmer raised his hand. Then why are there tanks heading toward Omaha? No one had a good answer. That night, few people slept well. Many stood outside looking up at the stars, wondering if something was looking back. At the White House, the president sat with his advisors. Reports came in from military bases worldwide. Everyone was as ready as they could be. What do we know about their intentions? The president asked. Nothing concrete, Olivia Grant replied. But the size of their fleet suggests this isn't a peaceful scientific mission. We're tracking smaller ships breaking off from the main fleet, General Daniels added. They seem to be taking positions around the planet. Standard invasion strategy. The president looked older than he had just days before. So this is really happening. First contact with aliens, and they're not here to make friends. We should try one more time to communicate, someone suggested. The president nodded. Send a message on all channels. Tell them we welcome peaceful contact. Tell them Earth wishes no conflict. The message was sent in every language humans knew, plus mathematical sequences that should make sense to any advanced civilization. Hours passed. No response came. At dawn, Captain Frank Willis stood on the roof of the military base. The eastern sky was turning pink. Somewhere up there, invisible to the naked eye, the alien fleet was arriving. His phone rang. It was General Daniels. They're here, the general said simply. Large objects entering Earth's atmosphere over multiple continents. May God help us all. Frank looked up and saw them then. Dark shapes blocking out the early morning stars, growing larger as they descended. The invasion of Earth had begun. What the aliens didn't know was that humans would not surrender easily. The attack was supposed to be simple, but nothing about this war would be simple at all. The alien ships filled the morning sky like giant dark clouds. In Chicago, police officer Samantha Kelly stood in the middle of the street, looking up with her mouth open. People around her pointed and screamed. Some ran for cover. Others just stood frozen in fear. "Get inside!" Samantha shouted, waving her arms at the stunned people. "Everyone get inside now!" A high-pitched sound cut through the air. Samantha covered her ears. All around her, car engines died. Streetlights went dark. Her police radio crackled with static, then went silent. The aliens had done something to knock out all electronics. A bright flash lit up the downtown area. Then came a boom so loud it shook the ground. Glass from skyscrapers rained down onto the streets. Samantha grabbed a young woman and pulled her into a doorway just as windows shattered above them. "They're attacking," Samantha said, her voice shaking. "We need to get underground." Across America and around the world, the same scene played out. In major cities, the aliens struck with perfect timing, hitting military bases first. Fighter jets exploded on runways before they could take off. Navy ships in the ocean burst into flames. Missile silos were hit with weapons that melted through concrete and steel. In the NORAD command center deep underground, Colonel Richard Price and his team watched in horror as their screens showed base after base going dark. "We've lost contact with Andrews Air Force Base," Lieutenant Diane Murphy reported, her face pale. "And Langley, and Peterson." Richard slammed his fist on the desk. "What about our missiles? Did any launch?" Diane shook her head. "Some were fired, but they're not reaching the alien ships. Some kind of shield is stopping them." Richard looked at the remaining screens. "What about ground troops? Any engagement reports?" "Coming in now," Diane said, reading from a tablet. Marines in Baltimore engaged alien ground forces about 10 minutes ago. Standard firearms had little effect on the aliens. They're wearing some kind of body armor. Casualties? Diane looked up, her eyes sad. Heavy, but there's something else. Before they lost contact, they reported finding a weakness. The aliens can't handle extreme heat. They managed to use flamethrowers with some success. Richard straightened up. Send that information to every fighting unit still in contact. Tell them to improvise, flamethrowers, incendiary devices, anything that produces high heat. In New York City, the alien ships hovered over major landmarks. Smaller craft broke, often landed in Central Park, Times Square, and near the United Nations building. Doors opened, and the aliens stepped out. They stood 7 feet tall with 4 arms and gray scaly skin. Their heads were large with 6 dark eyes that moved independently of each other. They wore armor that glowed slightly and carried weapons that looked like thin silver tubes. People who had been brave enough to stay on the streets ran screaming when they saw the aliens. The Krasin soldiers moved in perfect formation, securing each area with military precision. Commander Vexthar watched from his ship above the city. Report, he demanded. Ground forces have secured initial landing zones in 17 major cities, Admiral Zulrek replied. Human military response has been disorganized and ineffective, as expected. Any notable resistance? Zulrek hesitated. Minor issues in some areas. The humans' weapons are primitive, but they are showing unexpected coordination in some regions. And there is a report from the Baltimore unit about humans using heat-based weapons that penetrated our armor. Vexthar waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. Isolated incidents. Continue with the plan. Begin setting up command centers in each major city. I want population processing to begin within 48 hours. In Nebraska, Kyle Martinez huddled in a basement with 20 other people. They could hear the sounds of destruction above them. Someone had a battery-powered radio that still worked. It picked up a weak signal from a military broadcast. Attention all citizens, a voice said through the static. If you encounter alien forces, do not engage directly. Hide if possible. If fighting is necessary, be advised that the aliens are vulnerable to high temperatures. Use fire if available. Kyle looked around the basement. His eyes fell on a water heater in the corner. I have an idea, he said, standing up. If they're vulnerable to heat, maybe we can make some weapons. 3 hours later, Kyle and 4 others had created makeshift flamethrowers using propane tanks, garden hoses, and lighters. They had also made dozens of Molotov cocktails using bottles, gasoline, and strips of cloth. We're not soldiers, Kyle said to the group, but we need to defend ourselves if they find us, and maybe we can help others. In Washington, D.C., the White House had taken a direct hit. The president and key staff had been evacuated to a bunker, but communications were limited. Defense Secretary Olivia Grant and General Alan Daniels worked to coordinate what remained of the military response. We've got reports of successful counterattacks using incendiary weapons, General Daniels said. The aliens don't handle heat well. Their ships seem invulnerable, but their ground troops have a weakness. Olivia nodded. Get that information to everyone, and find me scientists who can help us develop better heat weapons quickly. By nightfall, the situation was grim. The aliens controlled most major cities. Millions were dead or missing. But in smaller towns and rural areas, humans were organizing. Farm equipment was converted to weapons. Hunting rifles were distributed. People who had never fought before prepared to defend their homes. In Chicago, Samantha Kelly had gathered a group of survivors in a subway tunnel. They had food, water, and weapons they had collected or made. The aliens control the streets during the day, she told the group, but we know this city better than they do. We can move at night, gather supplies, find more survivors. One of the group, an older man, shook his head. We should just hide. Wait for the military to save us. Samantha looked at him sadly. The military has been hit hard. We can't just wait for rescue. We need to fight back ourselves. In the NORAD Command Center, Colonel Richard Price had established contact with other military bunkers around the country. They were forming a network, sharing information about alien weaknesses, troop movements, and successful tactics. We've confirmed that their communication systems use a specific frequency range, a scientist reported. If we can disrupt it, we might be able to interfere with their coordination. Work on that, Richard ordered. And I want updates on any captured alien technology. We need to learn everything we can about them. As night fell across America, the aliens believed they had won. Commander Vexthar prepared reports for his superiors back in the Krazen Empire. The conquest of Earth was proceeding as planned, he told them. Minor resistance would be crushed within days. But he was wrong. Across the planet, humans were adapting, organizing, and preparing to fight back. The attack was supposed to be simple. It was about to become much more complicated. 2 weeks after the invasion began, humans were learning to fight back. The aliens controlled the major cities, but they struggled to hold the countryside. Small groups of people formed resistance cells. They shared information about alien weaknesses and effective weapons. In a converted missile silo in Nebraska, Professor Eleanor Wright led a team of scientists and military personnel. The underground facility had become a hub for the resistance. People worked day and night on ways to defeat the aliens. Eleanor stood in front of a large table. On it lay pieces of alien technology they had captured. She picked up what looked like a small silver box. This is part of their communication system, she explained to the group gathered around her. We've learned that all their technology works on similar principles. Their ships, their weapons, their shields, they all use the same frequency range. General Doug Peterson, a tough man with a scar on his face, leaned forward. Can we use that against them? Eleanor nodded. We think so. My team has been working on a virus, a computer program that could disrupt their systems. Kyle Martinez stood nearby. Before the invasion, he had been a software developer in a small company. Now he was helping create a weapon against alien technology. The virus is ready, Kyle said. It should spread through their entire network once it's uploaded, but we need to get it into their main system. Captain Heather Donovan stepped forward. She was a former Air Force pilot who had escaped when her base was destroyed. My team captured a small alien scout ship last week, she said. It's damaged but still works. We could use it to get close to their command ship. General Peterson frowned. That would be a one-way trip. Their larger ships have defense systems that would destroy you before you could get away. Nathan Wong, who had been a structural engineer before the invasion, raised his hand. Maybe not. I've been studying their ship designs. There's a maintenance access point that might allow for escape if the timing is right. The group discussed the plan for hours. It was dangerous, but it might be their best chance to strike back at the aliens. Across the country, similar resistance groups were forming. In the mountains of Colorado, former hunting guide Garrett Brown led a group that ambushed alien patrols. They used the difficult terrain to their advantage, striking quickly and then disappearing. In the swamps of Florida, ex-Navy SEAL Henry Adams trained locals to move silently through the water. They attacked alien fuel depots and supply lines. The aliens had expected humans to surrender after they destroyed the major military bases. Instead, they faced a species that refused to give up. In Chicago, Samantha Kelly's group had grown to over 100 people living in the subway tunnels. They emerged at night to find food and supplies. They also gathered information about alien movements and weaknesses. Samantha met with her leadership team in an old maintenance room. Maps of the city covered the walls, with marks showing alien positions. They've set up some kind of processing center in Grant Park, said Bill, a former bus driver who now led scouting missions. They're taking people there. We don't know what happens to them. Samantha pointed to a section of the map. Their patrols are regular. They pass this area every 2 hours. We could set up an ambush here, try to capture one of their weapons. It's risky, said Maria, a nurse who treated the group's wounded. But we need better weapons. Samantha nodded. We'll do it tonight. Small team, 4 people. Get in, get a weapon, get out. No heroes. On his command ship high above Earth, Commander Vexthar was growing concerned. He paced the bridge, all 6 of his eyes blinking rapidly. The humans were supposed to surrender by now, he said to Admiral Zulrek. Instead, they continue to resist. Our ground forces report increasing attacks. Zulrek nodded. They are more adaptable than our intelligence suggested. They learn quickly and exploit every weakness they find. Our supply lines are under constant attack, Vexthar continued. Units report being ambushed in rural areas. Even in cities we control, there are attacks at night. Perhaps we should request reinforcements, Zulrek suggested. Vexthar's skin darkened in anger. And admit to the High Command that we cannot handle a primitive species? No. We will increase our efforts, double the patrols, use more scanner technology to find their hiding places. At the Nebraska facility, Kyle Martinez worked with Professor Eleanor to refine their virus. They tested it on the captured alien technology. It works, Kyle said, watching as the alien device shut down. Now we need to get it into their main system. Captain Heather Donovan and her team prepared for their mission. They studied the captured scout ship, learning how to fly it. Nathan Wong showed them where to find the maintenance access point on the larger ships. Once you upload the virus, you'll have maybe 5 minutes before their systems start failing, he explained. That's your window to get to the access point and escape. Heather nodded. We'll make it work. In a small town in Vermont, a group of farmers had discovered another alien weakness. The aliens couldn't see well in heavy rain. During storms, their vision systems seemed to malfunction. The farmers used this knowledge to plan attacks during bad weather. They passed this information to other resistance groups using a network of ham radio operators. In Washington, D.C., what remained of the government had gone deep underground. Defense Secretary Olivia Grant worked from a bunker beneath the Pentagon. She coordinated with resistance groups across the country. Our strategy is working, she told her staff during a meeting. We can't match their technology, so we fight in ways they don't expect. Small groups, hit-and-run tactics using the terrain and weather to our advantage. General Alan Daniels pointed to a map of the United States. We're making progress, but slowly. The aliens still control most major population centers. We need something bigger, something that will change the balance. We may have that, Olivia replied. I've been in contact with the Nebraska facility. They've developed a virus that could disable alien technology. They're preparing to deliver it to the main alien command ship. 3 months after the invasion began, humans had learned much about their enemy. The Krasin were strong and had advanced technology, but they were not invincible. They struggled in Earth's varied environments. They couldn't handle extreme heat. Their vision systems failed in heavy rain. They didn't adapt quickly to new threats. But most importantly, the Krasin had expected surrender. They had planned for a simple conquest. They weren't prepared for a species that would unite and fight back with increasing skill and determination. As Captain Heather Donovan prepared to lead her team on the dangerous mission to deliver the virus, she knew the fate of humanity might rest on their success. The scout ship was ready. The virus was loaded onto a small device that would connect to the alien systems. It's time, she told her team. Let's show these aliens that taking Earth was the biggest mistake they ever made. Captain Heather Donovan sat in the pilot seat of the alien scout ship. It felt strange under her hands. The controls were made for beings with 4 arms, not 2. But after weeks of practice, she had learned how to fly it. Next to her sat Jack, Rivers, her second in command. Behind them, 2 more crew members checked their equipment. All 4 wore dark clothing with heat-resistant padding. They carried weapons made from a mix of human and alien technology. Systems check complete, Jack said. We're ready. Heather took a deep breath. Mission control. This is Strike Team Alpha. We are go for launch. In the command center below, General Peterson watched the small ship on a screen. Copy that, Alpha. You are cleared for launch. Good luck and Godspeed. The scout ship rose from its hiding place in an old farm silo. It moved silently into the night sky. Heather kept it low, following valleys and forests to avoid detection. The ship's own cloaking system helped hide it from alien scanners. Remember, we have one shot at this, Heather told her team. Once we upload the virus, every alien system will start to fail. We need to be at the extraction point before that happens. Jack nodded. 8 minutes from upload to extraction. We've practiced this. We can do it. The alien command ship hung above what used to be New York City. It was massive, over 2 miles long, with strange angles and glowing sections. Smaller ships moved around it like bees around a hive. Heather guided their scout ship toward a service bay. They had studied the patterns of alien ships and knew that supply vessels entered through these bays regularly. "We're approaching the command ship," Heather said into her radio. Going silent now, she turned off the communication system. From now on, they were on their own. The scout ship slipped into the busy flow of alien vessels. Heather held her breath, waiting for alarms to sound. But the disguise worked. The aliens thought they were just another scout returning to the mothership. Their ship landed in a huge bay filled with alien craft. Doors closed behind them. "Atmosphere reading normal," Jack said, checking a device. "We can breathe the air, but the masks will hide our faces." The team put on masks that covered their faces. From a distance, they might pass for Krazen soldiers, in their armor. They exited their ship, moving with purpose. Kyle had taught them that the Krazen respected confidence and direct movement. Hesitation would draw attention. "Main computer core should be 3 levels up," Jack whispered, consulting a small device that translated alien writing. They moved through the ship, passing alien crew members who barely glanced at them. Their disguises were working so far. In the Nebraska facility, Kyle Martinez and Professor Eleanor Wright watched a screen that showed the signal from the team's tracker. "They're in," Kyle said, moving toward the computer core. Eleanor nodded. "The virus is ready. Once they upload it, it will spread to every connected system within minutes." On the alien command ship, Heather and her team reached a security door. Jack used a device they had built to mimic alien access codes. The door slid open. Inside was a large room filled with glowing equipment. This was the ship's main computer core. "Keep watch," Heather told 2 of her team. "Jack, with me." They moved to a central terminal. Jack connected a small device to what looked like an access port. "Uploading now," he said. On the bridge of the command ship, Commander Vexthar was receiving reports from ground forces. "Human resistance continues to increase," reported an officer. "Our patrols in Sector 7 were ambushed. We lost 2 vehicles and 8 soldiers." Vexithar's skin darkened with anger. "Increase scanner sweeps. Find their hiding places. I want examples made of the leaders." Suddenly, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. "What is happening?" Vexthar demanded. "Unknown, Commander," said the officer, checking his screens. "We have a system intrusion. Something is accessing our main computer core." Vexthar slammed, a fist down. "Find it and destroy it." In the computer core room, Jack watched the progress bar on his device. "Upload at 85%, he said. "We need to move soon." The door to the room slid open. 3 Krazen soldiers entered, weapons ready. "Intruders!" one shouted in their harsh language. Heather didn't hesitate. She fired her weapon, which shot a concentrated burst of heat. The first alien fell. The other 2 returned fire. Jack ducked behind equipment as energy blasts hit the wall behind him. "Upload at 95%. Heather fired again, hitting another alien. The third took cover and called for backup. "Done," Jack shouted. "The virus is uploaded. Let's move." Heather grabbed the device and ran for the door. Her team followed. Alarms blared throughout the ship. The virus was beginning to affect systems. Lights flickered. Doors opened and closed randomly. "We have 8 minutes to reach the maintenance bay," Heather reminded her team as they ran through corridors. More aliens appeared ahead of them. There was no more pretending to be part of the crew. The team fired their weapons using the heat bursts that were so effective against the Krazen. Jack took a hit to the shoulder but kept running. 5 levels down to the maintenance bay, he gasped. Around them, the ship was beginning to fail. The virus spread through all systems, shutting down weapons, shields, and life support. On the bridge, Commander Vexthar watched in horror as his screens went dark. "What is happening?" he demanded. "System failure across all departments," an officer reported. "The intrusion is spreading to all ships in the fleet. We're losing control." Across Earth, alien technology began to fail. Their ships lost power. Their weapons stopped working. Their shields disappeared. In Chicago, Samantha Kelly watched as the alien patrol vehicles suddenly stopped in the street. The aliens inside seemed confused, checking their equipment. She turned to her team. "This is our chance. Spread the word. We attack now, while they're vulnerable." Across the country, other resistance leaders saw the same thing happening. They had been warned to be ready. Now they launched their attacks. On the alien command ship, Heather and her team fought their way down toward the maintenance bay. 2 of her team had been hit. She and Jack dragged them along. 3 minutes left, Jack said, looking at his timer. "The ship's systems are failing faster than we expected." They reached the maintenance bay. It was a small area with escape pods designed for emergency repairs. "Get in," Heather ordered, helping the wounded into one of the pods. Jack hit the emergency release. The pod shot out from the ship just as the main lights failed completely. As they fell toward Earth, they could see the massive command ship starting to drift. Without power, it couldn't maintain its position. Smaller alien ships were also drifting, colliding with each other. "We did it," Jack said, looking back. Heather nodded. "This is just the beginning. Now we take the fight to them on the ground." The escape pod landed in a field outside what used to be Philadelphia. Resistance fighters were waiting to pick them up. In Washington, D.C., Defense Secretary Olivia Grant received the news. "The virus worked," she told General Daniels. "Alien technology is failing worldwide. Our forces are engaging them on the ground." General Daniels nodded. "The tide is turning, but this fight is far from over." Commander Vexthar stood on the bridge of his dead ship. Emergency lights cast an eerie glow. He had underestimated these humans. What was supposed to be a simple conquest had become a disaster. "Send a message to the High Command," he ordered. "Tell them." He paused. What could he say? That primitives had defeated their advanced technology? "Tell them we need reinforcements." But he knew it was too late. By the time help arrived from the Krasian homeworld, the humans would have learned even more about fighting his kind. The battle for Earth had just entered a new phase. 6 months after the invasion began, the world had changed completely. Humans had taken back many cities. The massive alien command ships hung dead in the sky, empty metal shells. Smaller alien craft had crashed all over the planet. Alien soldiers fought on, but without their technology, they were losing ground every day. In a meeting room in Geneva, military leaders from around the world gathered. The United Nations had moved its temporary headquarters there after New York was damaged in the invasion. Maps on the walls showed the current situation. Blue areas marked human-controlled territory. Red showed where aliens still held ground. Defense Secretary Olivia Grant stood at the front of the room. 6 months ago, we were on the brink of defeat. Today, we've reclaimed 60% of occupied territory. The virus that disabled their technology was the turning point. General Alan Daniels pointed to the red areas on the map. The remaining Krasian forces have regrouped in these urban centers. They've fortified their positions and are fighting hard. "What about reinforcements?" someone asked. "Could more aliens be coming?" Professor Eleanor Wright stepped forward. She had become the leading expert on alien technology. "We've decrypted their star charts and communications. The Krasian Empire spans 17 star systems. Earth was meant to be their 18th conquest." "Are we facing reinforcements?" General Peterson asked. "Unlikely in the near term," Eleanor replied. "Their nearest outpost is 6 light years away. We've established a detection grid based on their own technology. We'll have ample warning if more ships approach." In orbit around Earth, a new defense fleet was taking shape. Humans had learned to adapt alien technology for their own use. Captain Heather Donovan, now Admiral Donovan, commanded the first ship named Defender. It had been built using parts from captured alien vessels. Heather stood on the bridge, looking down at Earth below. Jack Rivers, now her first officer, joined her. "Fleet status report," she said. Jack handed her a tablet. 3 ships operational, 5 more under construction. We're making progress." "What about weapon systems?" "The heat-based weapons are fully functional. Shield technology is still giving us problems, but we're working on it." Heather nodded. "Keep at it. We need to be." ready if more aliens come. In Chicago, Samantha Kelly walked through streets that were slowly coming back to life. Buildings were damaged, but people were returning. Her police uniform was worn and patched, but she wore it with pride. She led a mixed force of police and civilians who kept order in the recovering city. A young officer ran up to her. "Captain Kelly, we found another group of survivors hiding in the old water treatment plant. About 30 people." Samantha smiled. "Get them to the processing center. Make sure they have food, water, and medical attention." "Yes, ma'am." "Oh, and the construction team has cleared another block of downtown. They say the buildings are stable, enough to reoccupy." "Good. We need the housing." All over the world, similar scenes played out. Humans rebuilding, recovering, and preparing for whatever might come next. In New York, Commander Vexthar made his last stand in the ruins of what had once been the financial district. His once mighty force had been reduced to a few hundred soldiers. They had built defenses using rubble and damaged buildings. Vexthar looked at the small communication device in his hand. It had taken months to repair, using parts salvaged from crashed ships. Finally, he had made contact with the Krazen homeworld. The message he received was not what he had hoped for. "Withdraw immediately. Planet deemed too costly to acquire. Survive if possible." Vexthar crushed the device in his hand. His empire had abandoned him. They would not send help. His mission was over. Human forces surrounded the alien position. Major Drew Phillips led a combined force of soldiers and civilian fighters. They had the aliens outnumbered 5-1. "Surrender now," Phillips called through a loudspeaker. "You are surrounded. There is no escape." After a long pause, a white flag appeared above the alien barricade. The last major Krazen force on Earth was surrendering. Vexthar himself walked out to meet Phillips. The once proud commander looked tired and defeated. "Your kind fights with unexpected ferocity," he said through a translation device. "We were told humans were divided, that you would turn on each other when pressed. You united us instead," Phillips replied simply. 1 year after the invasion began, the last Krazen prisoner transport left Earth's atmosphere. The captured aliens would be held in a facility on the moon until a permanent solution could be found. Under the rebuilt White House lawn, President Rebecca Warren addressed a global audience. She stood on a platform decorated with flags from nations around the world. Today marks not just the end of the war, but the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. We have overcome the greatest threat in our history, not just through force of arms, but through our greatest strengths, our diversity, our adaptability, and our unwillingness to surrender in the face of overwhelming odds. The crowd cheered. People hugged each other. Some cried. The long nightmare was over. In orbit, Admiral Donovan watched from the bridge of the Defender. The ship now had a crew of 200. It represented the best of human and adapted alien technology. "New course plotted, Admiral," reported Navigation Officer Paul Harris. "The Krazen homeworld?" Donovan shook her head. "Not yet. First, we need to meet with our neighbors. The galaxy is bigger and more dangerous than we thought. We'll need allies." The ship turned away from Earth, beginning humanity's first deliberate journey into deep space. Back on Earth, the recovery continued. Cities were rebuilt. New technologies developed from alien designs improved human life. Defense systems were created to protect against any future attacks. In Chicago, Samantha Kelly stood on the roof of her apartment building. The city lights were coming back on, block by block. She could see people in the streets below, going about their lives. Not the same as before. Nothing would ever be the same, but perhaps better in some ways. Humans had learned they could face the worst and survive. They had discovered a strength they didn't know they had. In Nebraska, Kyle Martinez taught a class of young people. They sat in a classroom filled with pieces of alien technology. "This is their communication system," he explained. "Understanding it helped us defeat them. Now it's helping us talk to other worlds." A student raised her hand. "Are there other aliens out there? Friendly ones?" Kyle nodded. "We think so. The Krazine records mention trading partners and enemies. We're preparing to meet them all. The attack was supposed to be simple until humans fought back. Now, a species that had barely reached its own moon was taking its place among the stars. Not as conquerors, but as survivors who had earned their right to be there. Commander Vexthar, in his prison cell on the moon, watched Earth through a small window. He had failed in his mission, but he had learned something important about this strange species, something his people should have known before they attacked. Humans, when pushed to the edge, don't break. They fight harder. They work together. They adapt. They overcome. The next species to threaten Earth would face not a divided primitive world, but a united, battle-tested, spacefaring civilization. And they would be ready.